Green Treasure. Today I will discuss very simple and interesting topic, general characteristics of algae. It will be the part first of it. Here our focus will be various definitions, features of algae and overall life cycles in algae, and a brief description about algal database. So this will be the part first of this series, and then we will be discussing the other parts of it. The first will be what are the definitions of the algae. The first definition, if you will see, the name algae was first given by Linnaeus in 1754. Algae, as you know, they are named as seaweeds. Linnaeus included Hepatic, which is basically the liverworts, among groups of plants he called as algae. But it was A.L.D. Joshi in 1789 who delimited algae as is known to us at present. So, but the name, as it seems, was given by the Linnaeus in 1754. And also the algae, the study of the algae is called as phycology, or it is also named as algology, because it's a Greek word, phykos. Phykos means seaweeds. Logos means study. That is, it is the study of the seaweeds. It's also called as phycology, or it is also called as algology. And the person who study algae is named as phycologist or algologists. We have prominent algologists in India and throughout world who study the algae. And let us see what are the proper definitions of the algae. Since there is a diverse nature, you find algae, it has a diverse nature, therefore a precise definition of algae is very difficult. But some of the leading phycologists, they have given the definitions as is given by the Fridge in 1935, suggested that algae are all holophytic. Holophytic means they have an autotrophic mode of nutrition. Autotrophic mode of nutrition is in which organisms manufacture own food material from inorganic molecules by means of photosynthesis. That means suggested that algae are all holophytic, that is, they are all autotrophic organisms that fail to reach the higher levels of differentiation. That means they are very simple. They don't have differentiation, and that differentiation which is characteristic of the other orchigonate plants, that which are higher than the algae. So according to this definition, they are all autotrophic organisms and they don't have the differentiation. The level of differentiation is not there. That is, no true root system, shoot system, no leaves, no roots, and other things are found. Smith, GM 1995, he gave a definition. Algae are simple plants with autotrophic mode of nutrition. When you have to define, definition has to be universal. So Smith suggested they are simple plants. As we said, they are not differentiated. They are undifferentiated. That is, they are simple plants with autotrophic mode of nutrition, as is suggested by this holophytic by Fridge also. Prescott, 1969, suggested algae are those chlorophyll-bearing organisms and their colorless relatives, which are thalloid, that's having no true roots, stems, and leaf organs. Prescott suggested that there is a chlorophyll. The chlorophyll-bearing organisms are there. Rest, they are simple, thalloid. They don't have differentiation of root, shoot, and leaves. The definition is given by the Lee in 2006. Lee Ori suggested that algae are the organisms having chlorophyll as their primary photosynthetic pigments and lack sterile covering around their reproductive cells. Now see the definition here. Lee suggests that they all have the chlorophyll, because we know chlorophyll A and the chlorophylls are the primary photosynthetic pigments. Then there is a possibility of the photosynthesis. So it will be universal in all the algae. And they lack sterile covering around their reproductive cells. As you see, other than the algae, you will find that the sex organs are covered by means of sterile jacket cells. But sterile jacket cells are absent in case of in these lower plants. Oxford Dictionary of Plant Sciences 2015 suggested that they are relatively simple plants that are never differentiated. As I said, they are not differentiated. So that is roots, stem, and leaves are not formed in them. They contain chlorophyll A. Now it is modifying here. Lee suggested only chlorophyll. Now it's coming to the primary pigments. That's the chlorophyll A as the primary photosynthetic pigments. As you will see onwards, the classification of the algae on the basis of the pigments also. So primary photosynthetic pigments has no true vascular system. That is, xylem, phloem, etc. is not present, and there is no sterile layer of cells surrounding the reproductive organs. So that means the Oxford Dictionary has summed up, suggested that chlorophyll A is a primary photosynthetic pigment there. They are not differentiated. They don't have sterile jacket cells surrounding their reproductive organs, and this is relatively, they are all relatively simple plants. So the definition sums up. So we can also have some very simple definitions of the algae. We can say algae are simple aquatic plants, because all of them are almost aquatic except a few, having undifferentiated non-vascular thalloid body, and they multiply through primitive methods of reproduction. This can be one definition, or other definition of the algae also. Or we can say a diverse group of photosynthetic, thalloid, non-vascular, unicellular to multicellular organisms. Multicellular does not mean the organ formation. There can be the number of the cells together. So we can also say that algae are simple, thallose. What is thallose? Thallose means an undifferentiated plant body without roots, stems and leaves. Autotrophic, non-vascular plants, that is, they don't have the xylem and phloem, having either unicellular or multicellular sex organs that are always non-jacketed. As I said, sterile cells are not surrounding the sex organs in case of algae. Every cell produces gametes. And you know, the algae, which we call as the seaweeds, they are carbon fixing and oxygenating organism now, because once they are photosynthesizing and they are fixing the carbon dioxide, they'll be releasing the oxygen. So they are carbon fixing and oxygenating organisms that contribute about 73 to 87% of net production of global oxygen. The huge source of oxygen and the sinks of the carbon dioxide, because they fix the carbon dioxide, they release the oxygen. That's why 73 to 87% of the net production of the global oxygen is given by the algae. So these are some of the definitions of the algae, and the best definition is they are simple, aquatic, undifferentiated, non-vascular thalloid, and their cells are not surrounded, or not jacketed, or they are non-jacketed. Now, what are the general characteristics of the algae? As I said, algae are chlorophyll-bearing thalloid plants. Thalloid means which does not have a root, shoot, and stems. Leaves. Thallus not fully differentiated into true tissue system. Tissue can be there, cells can be there, tissue can be there, but the true tissue system is not there. That is, they lack vascular tissue. Xylem and phloem is not present there. Some algae have thalli with slight differentiation. As you will see onwards, ulva and sargassum are the two seaweeds where you will see some amount of differentiation, but not to the differentiation of the highest plants. Except few, all are aquatic in nature. All the cells are morphologically and physiologically similar. And since they are plants, the cell wall, they have a cell with a cell wall, and the cell wall is made up of cellulose, hemicellulose, and pectin, and there are other materials which are specific to the algae. We will see when we will discuss the cell wall structure in the algae, and we will find the materials, other materials which are being procured from these seaweeds and which have a pharmaceutical and the commercial values also. So their sex organs are generally unicellular. When multicellular, each cell is fertile, capable to reproduce. That means they don't have sterile cells. And they are not surrounded by the sterile jacket cells. No embryo is formed after gametic fusion. If a gametes are formed there, when they will fuse, normally gametes are haploid. It could have resulted in the formation of a diploid structure, but that diploid structure becomes a zygote, and that does not form an embryo. That zygote, which is the fusion of the two gametes, will immediately undergo the meiosis. So if it is a diploid state, it will undergo the meiotic division, and it will produce the number of the cells which can form the meiospores. And those meiospores can wander in the water, and they will germinate and will form the haploid gametophyte. By and large, almost all the algae have these unique cellular characteristics, and which you will see in other videos also. So we have seen the general characteristics of the algae. We have here a range of algae from unicellular. These are the unicellular. Then you will see the cellularity there. They will be in different combinations, and ultimately there will be slight multicellularity. This one is basically a unicellular organism, which is called as the Stabularia. Stabularia is a unicellular organism, single-celled organism, larger in size and complex in form. And then we have a ulva. We have other that's from simple to the complex one. This is the range, or in fact the range of the thallus available in the algae also. Or some of the structures will be like this, which will be just like a leaf-like structure. These are the slightly more differentiated algae, seaweeds, as ulva, as sargassum is there. So this is also a seaweed which has little bit of differentiation, but not the differentiation of the higher plants. So let us understand in brief, what are their life cycles, algal life cycles. You know, every plant has a life cycle. Here, the generations can be an haploid generation and the diploid generation. We can call it as a diploid generation, a sporophytic generation, and a gametophytic generation. But basically, in a life cycle, both the two generations are independent. They are not dependent on each other, as you will see in the higher plants. So we have algal life cycle with independent generations. And life cycle can be Hepalantic type. It can be Diplantic type. It can be Isomorphic type. We will discuss them one by one in a generalized way. So we have a sporophytic and a gametophytic generations which are independent here. And the dominant phase in the life cycle in case of algae is always the gametophyte. And reproduction takes place by primitive methods. It will be vegetative method, all methods, vegetative methods, asexual methods, and sexual modes. So we will discuss also their reproductions in the next coming videos, where you will see all the three forms of the reproductions are found in case of the algae. But here our focus will be Hepalantic type, Diplantic type, and Isomorphic type. How they will represent the algae, what are the characteristics of these types of the life cycles. First of all, let us discuss the Hepalantic life cycle. We have in Hepalantic life cycle a gametophyte. Gametophyte is haploid, which is the plant body, and this will produce the gametes. Because as I said, all the cells of this can produce the gametes. They can become as a gametes, and those gametes can be same, can be different. They will come together and they will fuse. There will be a fusion. This will be an haploid structure producing haploid gametes. Haploid gametes will come together, fuse, they will form a zygote because embryo is not formed there. Now the zygote is formed there. Zygote is for a brief moment there. It will undergo meiosis. And what it will produce? Meiosis product will be the zoospores. And zoospores will be haploid in nature. And number of these zoospores will wander in the water and they will germinate. They will form again the gametophyte. So in this type of a life cycle, you'll find there will be an Hepalantic gametophytic phase, that is this, and there will be brief, that will be this zygote, but overall it will be an Hepalantic life cycle because the diploidy prevails for a brief moment and is not visible, only it is in the form of a zygote. So you will find in some algae this type of life cycle prevailing, which is called as the Hepalantic life cycle. And also there is one more that is called as the Diplantic life cycle. As the word signifies, Diplantic means here a diploid thing. Sporophyte is here, which is diploid. This sporophyte algae, which is sporophyte, will undergo meiosis. And when it undergoes meiosis, it produces the gametes. 4 gametes will be formed there, which will be haploid in nature. Those gametes will come together, they will be swimming together, and they will come and they will fuse, they will form a zygote. And that zygote will then undergo mitosis because it has to form again the sporophyte. So there will be a brief stage that is a haploid phase, that the gametes will be formed there. But the overall here will be a diploid phase. That is why we call it as a diplantic life cycle, because the prevailing life cycle here is a diploid structure, which is a sporophyte. Gametophyte is not formed here because it produces a sporophyte is there. A sporophyte produces the gametes, and the gametes by process of meiosis, reduction division, and it forms the zygote, then fusion of the two, and the zygote undergoes mitosis, will form the sporophyte. That is called as the diplantic life cycle. Then coming to the third cycle, that is called as the Haploideplantic life cycle. Now as the word signifies there, the plant will have a haploid, a gametophyte, as well as a sporophyte. Now first of all, what will happen? The gametophyte will produce the gametes, and the gametes will come together. They will fuse. Their fusion will result in the formation of a zygote, which is haploid here. It will become diploid here. And this zygote will undergo mitosis now, and there will be a formation of a sporophyte. So in a life cycle, you have a sporophyte as well as a gametophyte. That's why you have a Hepalantic as well as a diplantic life cycle. And then this sporophyte will undergo meiosis. It will produce the zoospores, and the zoospores will form the gametophyte. The germination of the zoospores will result in the formation of the gametophyte, and the gametophyte will produce the gametes, and the life cycle will continue there. So this type of life cycle has a haplo, that is gametophyte, this as a thalloid structure, this as a thalloid structure, but internally it will be haploid, it will be diploid. And this is called as a Haploideplantic life cycle. In addition to this, you will encounter in some of the algae an isomorphic type of life cycle. The word isomorphic means similar in morphology. What is similar in morphology in this type of an algae? What do you find here? You have an algae here. This is haploid. We call it as a gametophyte. So gametophyte, it can be a male gametophyte and a female gametophyte. They are similar in structure, but little bit of physiology is different. As a result, they will undergo mitosis. As a result, mitosis product of the haploid will produce the haploid gametes. So this will also produce the haploid gametes. Since it is a male and a female, or a positive and a negative, and the fusion of the gametes will take place there. So we have here male gametes and the female gametes. They look the same. As we see in case of ulva, they are called as the isogamous type. They are isogametes. They will come together, they will fuse, and after the fusion, the fusing gametes will look like this. There will be a fertilization. So fertilization will have an haploid plus haploid. That will result in the formation of a diploid zygote. The diploid zygote which is formed here will undergo mitosis now. That mitosis will produce the spores. Those mitospores will germinate. They will form a structure like this, and then a structure like this, and then ultimately a structure will be formed here, which as such looks similar to this structure morphologically, but genetically it is different. It is diploid sporophyte because it has formed from the diploid zygote, and it is having a similar structure with this. So the diploid sporophyte and haploid gametophyte look alike. The life cycle is isomorphic. I hope you understand it, because it has a similar type of morphology in their gametophyte as well as the sporophyte. And the sporophyte then undergoes the meiosis. It will produce the haploid gametes, and those haploid gametes will now undergo mitosis, so that number of the haploid gametes will be formed, and each haploid gamete will germinate and will form the haploid gametophytes. Or there can be an also here, if a spores are produced, gametes are produced here, that can again germinate, and that can form, that is called as the asexual means also. But overall, in this type of isomorphic type of life cycle, you have two types, that is the haploid gametophyte and a diploid sporophyte, which are existing in the life cycle, and that is called as the isomorphic type of life cycle. I hope we have understood, and in coming videos we will see the reproductions in different types of the algae, and these life cycles will be clear there. Something about the algae base. Since algae is diverse in nature, and it has a range of thalasses there, and throughout world the algae is present there, and phycologists who are working on the study and the research is being done on it to understand the nature, taxonomy, nomenclature, and distributional information. Initially it was a routine matter, and then the genera, the species, they were identified by different phycologists. But this time there is a one base which is called as a global algal database. And this global algal database, what it contains, it has a taxonomic, nomenclatural, and the distributional information. That base is named as Algae Base. So first of all, it was published in Journal of Phycology by Michael D. Goyri in 2012, and it has estimated 72,500 species of algae belonging to more than 1,500 genera. Now you can just go through this website, http://www.algaebase.org. This will give you the information on the each and every algae which is being identified. Its taxonomic information, its nomenclatural information, its distributional information. It has become so easy now to communicate as per the research is concerned. And currently 1,67,022 species and intraspecific names, 22,910 images, this much of bibliographic items, and this much of the distributional records are available in this base. So it's a very important base, global algal database, which is being projected as this way, Algae Base, and this is the address, mailing address for this, and you will see as a representative plate what this base is basically showing. Suppose listening the world's algae. Now you can understand the global database. Listening the world's algae. Algae Base is a global algal database of taxonomic, nomenclatural, and distributional information. So you will find this logo here, Algae Base. Suppose it has been found here. Now its information is given here. Who has found it? Where, which is the address of it, and what is the date, and then this is the link with it. So that means at any part of the time, at any part of the world, an information is available where you can check the data. This is called as the global database, which is called as the Algae Base. So this was some thing about the brief description of today's topic. That was basically the part first, which is called as the characteristics of the algae. We have just given the definitions and we have restricted to the generalized terms. Hope this short video tutorial has cleared your understanding about the topic, and I'm sure in coming days more information will be uploaded. Till then, be safe and be happy. Thank you for the patient listening.